Good morning. This Monday, 24 June 2019 hearing officer meeting is called to order. I am LA County staff member Gina Natoli. I will be the hearing officer on all agenda items today. Let me go through some administrative items first. Please turn off or silence all electronic communication devices. If you would like to follow along with today's proceedings, there are agendas available in the back of the room. Any materials that were submitted after documents were posted on the website for today's hearings will be available for review in the back of the room. There are established time limits for testimony on hearing officer agenda items. A petitioner will have up to 10 minutes for the original presentation. An individual respondent would have 10 minutes. If there is more than one respondent, I will look at how many respondents we have and adjust the time down accordingly. If you are not a respondent or petitioner, you have 2 minutes each, and there's no ceding of time. Anyone wishing to testify today on any agenda item, and that includes the public comment period, must fill out a speaker card and submit it to staff in the back of the room. There is an audio and video recording being made of today's hearings, and it's usually posted on the website within 5 business days. Is anyone aware of anyone who is here today who may need translation services? All right, thank you. The general procedure for today's agenda items is as follows. First, Department of Consumer and Business Affairs staff will make a brief presentation. Then the petitioner will speak, and then I will call the respondents or members of the public. And if necessary, after that, I will ask the petitioner to come back up for a rebuttal period. Final decisions made by hearing officers on landlord petitions which do not assess an administrative penalty, and final decisions on all tenant petitions are final and are not subject to further administrative action at the county. So if you intend to testify today on any agenda item, I'm going to ask that you stand at this time to be sworn in. Even if you think you may or you may not, you haven't decided yet, please let me swear you in, because it does not obligate you to speak. You're not required to speak as long as I've sworn you in. I just want to make sure we get everybody out of the way first. So please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you very much. Please be seated. Thank you. We're moving on to part 2 of the agenda, public hearings. First of all, let me ask, is there anyone here for items 4, 5, 6, or 7? All right, I think I'm going to take items 4, 5, 6, and 7 first, because those items are going to be continued. And I expect items 2 and 3 will take a little bit of time. So items 4, 5, 6, and 7 will be first. I'm expecting those to go very quickly. It's going to be one presentation for the 4 items, and we'll take the testimony and then be able to move on to items 2 and 3. So let me call items 4, 5, 6, and 7. Cases numbers RSQ19-04419, RSQ19-04420, RSQ19-04421, and RSQ19-04422. I'm not sure who the speakers are here for, but I will open all of the hearings at this time for those 4 agenda items, and ask staff to come forward for the presentation. So just to be clear on items 4, 5, 6, 7, I will not be making a decision today, but I will open the hearings to take testimony. Thank you. Ms. Lewis, please proceed whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you so much. So the case numbers that you mentioned are RSQ 19-04419 through 22, and that is Lonzel Branch versus his tenants. And I'll go ahead and read the addresses for each of the locations. So versus his tenants at 10200 South Wilton Place, Los Angeles, California, 90047. Lonzel Branch versus his tenants at 2131 West 104th Street, Los Angeles, California, 90047. Lonzel Branch versus his tenants at 10628 Haas Avenue, Los Angeles, California, 90047. And Lonzel Branch versus his tenants at 10003 South Gramercy Place, Los Angeles, California, 90047. For each of these items, it's a petition for relief from moratorium to request rent in excess, in a rent increase in excess of the allowable limit that's been established by the interim rent stabilization ordinance number 2018-0045. The petitioner owns each of those properties. At this time, DCBA is requesting additional time for review and analysis of the supporting documentation that's been provided by the petitioner. We're requesting that each of these cases are continued to July 29th. And as you already stated, you will be opening up the public hearing, which is what we wanted to request as well.
All right, thank you very much. So we have two speakers for item 5. If I could call forward Mr. Christopher Reed and Ms. LaTanya Washington. Good morning. Please come forward, take a seat, either of the chairs here. Thank you. What I'm going to ask is that you state your name for the record. We don't need your address, just your name for the record before you begin. There's a little timer on the table in front of you. It has a red and a yellow and a green light on this. You will be allowed 3 minutes each to speak. When your time starts, the green light will come on. When you have 30 seconds left, the yellow light comes on. So when you see that yellow light, just please wrap up your testimony. And when the red light comes on, your time has expired. Whoever would like to start first, please go ahead.
Hello, ma'am. So there's a few issues with my mother's unit. Like there's several like repairs that have failed. He failed to like repair the actual unit. Like there's like in the living room, there's multiple plugs that don't work, like the electricity plugs, as well as like the bathtub is corroded on the side. There's a whole lot of repairs that need to be addressed. And my mom has spoke to him several times, but it seems like he just ignores the repair requests. And that's pretty much all I really have to say. It's just the repairs, just like an excessive amount of repairs. There's the gutters is hanging from the actual duplex, needs to be repaired. The stairs on the outside, easy hazard, you can trip and fall and needs to be repaired. The railing is loose, needs to be repaired. So just lots of repairs.
Thank you, Mr. Red. And Ms. Washington, do you have anything to add?
That we have pictures of what it looks like.
So the packet that I received here, these are these from your?
No.
I took it from the phone.
Okay. Please make sure you submit those to staff.
Okay.
So they can include those in the packet for me to look at.
Okay. I don't actually have a physical copy. It's a digital on my cell phone. So is there any way to like an email or anything I can send it to, or a Dropbox?
You can always email items to Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. They will give you the website and the email address that you can send things to.
Okay.
You can upload those.
Okay.
If you have nothing else to add, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Let me just jot a couple notes down, folks. I see a speaker card here for item 6. Is that individual here to speak on item 6? Mr. Abdul Mumin, please. Were you sworn in, sir? Yes. Okay, great. Please take a seat. And again, just if you could just state your name for the record before you begin.
My name is Jashams Abdul Mumin.
Good morning, sir.
I would simply reiterate that the owner of the property has been negligent in the repairs. Those are the major items that are constantly brought to his attention. I went and had an appraiser come out to do an official appraisal of the property, and I will send that information to the staff so that they can see the items that need to be repaired.
Mr. Abdul Mumin, I do have a question for you about the rent.
Yes.
Have you had a rent increase?
Yes.
And when did that occur?
Over the last, I would say 5 years, there have been those incremental increases. His claim is that they're not as high as the other properties in the area.
And when was your most recent rent increase?
I think 2016, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you, Mr. Abdul Mumin. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Does staff have anything to add at this time?
Not at this time.
All right. Then to provide staff time to review and analyze the documentation submitted by the petitioner, items 4 through 7, cases RSQ19-04419, RSQ19-04420, RSQ19-04421, and RSQ19-04422 are continued to 29 July 2019. All right, thank you. Items 2 and 3 I will be taking in order. So if a couple of you have written down on your speaker cards items 2 and 3, unless you are actually a tenant in both complexes, I ask that you pick either 2 or 3. So let me double check right now with a couple of you. Ms. Elsie Rodriguez, if you could hold up a hand and let me know whether you would prefer to speak on item 2 or 3. Yes. Are you a tenant of you're with the management company? And is that the same for Mr. Chang? Of course, that's the same for Mr. Chang. All right. Let me just make sure everything's organized for me here. All right, great. Now moving on to item 2. This is case number RSQ19-01475, and item 3 is case RSQ19-02024. I've asked staff to make a combined presentation, so staff will only stand up here once to speak on the properties separately. Ms. Lewis, please proceed.
Thank you. Okay, so as you mentioned, this is for the interim rent stabilization ordinance petition for relief from moratorium, which and it's combined, as you mentioned, so RSQ 19-01475 and RSQ 19-02024 is what we'll be discussing today. The petitioner is AASW Alliance, LLC, which is a landlord, and the authorized representatives for the petitioner are Elsie Rodriguez and Wei Chao Cheng. So sometimes I will use Wei's name when we're discussing portions of this. The respondents are the tenants at 11506 Obert Avenue in Whittier, California, 90604. And that's related to case number RSQ 19-01475. The other respondents are the tenants at 11517 Obert Avenue, also in Whittier, 90604, and that's related to RSQ 19-02024. The petitions were filed on February 21st, 2019, and the subject properties are, just as I mentioned, 11506 Obert Avenue and 11517 Obert Avenue. And again, both of these are in Whittier, California, 90604. As I mentioned, it's a petition for relief from moratorium, which means that the petitioner is requesting to increase the rental income in excess of the allowable limit, which is currently 3%, as established by the Interim Rent Stabilization Ordinance number 2018-0045. So just to confirm the jurisdiction, both properties are located in the unincorporated area of South Whittier in Los Angeles County, and they are residential dwellings on a property with 2 or more units. The property located at 11506 Obert Avenue was built in 1962, and the property located at 11517 Obert Avenue was built in 1961. This is what we were able to pull up on the parcel profile report. The petitioner returned the proof of service for both cases to DCBA on February 21st, 2019, declaring that a copy of the petition were sent to the respondents on that same date. And our department sent a notice of hearing to the petitioner as well as the respondents on March 27, 2019. And since continuance have come in, we've sent additional notices for those updated dates. So for both of the cases, the petitioner reports the following operating expenses: mortgage, property taxes, property insurance, maintenance and repairs, payroll and salaries, pest control, trash, gas, water, and electricity. To substantiate his expenses, we received expense reports from the property management company, which is Mashco Property Management, and that spanned from September 2018 to April 2019. We also received rent rolls from the property management company as well for the same time frame, September 2018 to April 2019. We also received bank statements from the petitioner for the same time frame, which was September 2018 to April 2019. Additionally, we received council checks for the same time frame, September 2018 through April 2019. And we also received utility bills for the water, gas, and electricity for that same time frame, September 2018 through April 2019. And last, we received maintenance receipts and invoices for that same time frame, September 2018 through April 2019. Okay, so just a couple of things that I want to highlight regarding the materials that we received and just how we go about reviewing this information. So the interim rent stabilization and its implementing rules and regulations define a fair return as ensuring a landlord, so in this case the petitioner, may maintain the value of the net operating income earned from the property prior to the regulation of rents under the interim rent stabilization ordinance, and the ability to continue those earnings during the pendency of the ordinance. And what defines the net operating income is the gross income less operating expenses, thus the petitioner submitting income as well as expenses. And they maintain the value of the net operating income by ensuring that the net operating income increases no less than any increase in consumer price index for our area, Los Angeles, as reported monthly by the U.S. Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics. Once we have those numbers, we compare, the county DCBA compares the landlord's net operating income prior to the interim rent stabilization and at the time that the landlord petitions the county for a rent increase, again, to ensure that the net operating income received when the petition is submitted has increased in value equal to the change in CPI. So what we're looking at is what the net operating income is in the base year against the petition year and making sure that it's adjusted for inflation for that maintenance. And to review and determine the maintenance of the net operating income between the base year and the petition year, the petitioner must provide substance and documentation related to the reported income and expenses. In this instance, the petitioner is also reporting needing to increase rents in order to qualify for a refinance, which we'll go into. Before moving forward, I just want to make it clear that mortgage costs are not considered to be an eligible expense for the purpose of determining a fair return, and that's done in an effort to treat tenants fairly, irrespective of a landlord's creditworthiness. I'm going to discuss this a little bit further, just as the net operating income that has been reported it looks a little bit differently in this instance, as the petitioner has a little bit of a unique situation. Alrighty, so for now I'm going to be going into specific petitions. So this is for RSQ 1901475. So the petitioner closed on the property in August 2018, which was a month prior to the implementation of the ordinance. The petitioner is requesting a minimum of $4,200 monthly increase to be split between the units. One thing that I want to highlight regarding this is that one of the 10 units on the property will become vacant by July 31st, 2019, which provides the landlord the ability to set rent for the unit without approval from the county per the interim rent stabilization ordinance. Additionally, the petitioner has already issued 3% increases where applicable. So please forgive the typo in the petition summary's title. This is still for RSQ 1901475. Alrighty, so this is a breakdown of the expenses and income provided by the petitioner, as well as the net operating income that DCBA was able to calculate. And as I previously mentioned, the petitioner has a unique situation in which he does not have a base year because he does not have income and operating expenses in the base year because of when he purchased the property in August 2018. So we have nothing to compare his current net operating income to, which is what we're looking at for a fair return. In this instance, what we did is go ahead and provide the mortgage cost in our calculations, and we calculated the net operating income, what that would look like without the mortgage cost and what it looks like with the mortgage cost. And of course, I'll go into that further. So again, the petitioner provided documents related to the mortgage, property taxes, property insurance, maintenance repairs, payroll, pest control, trash, gas, water, and electricity. So as we can see here, looking at the total income for September 2018 through April 2019, the petitioner reported an income of $115,503.84 for that time frame. our department was able to substantiate that amount based on the rent rolls that were provided to us. Again, because the petitioner did not purchase the property until August 2018, we have nothing to compare it to for the base year. And so regarding the expenses, our department used the property management company's expense report to identify expenses and cross-reference those numbers against what had been reported by the petitioner, as well as the council checks that were provided, utility bills, bank statements, maintenance receipts, invoices provided by the petitioner. So I will go ahead and make a statement and say that any deviation in the numbers that were reported to us by the petitioner are as a result of our department having the inability to substantiate those numbers. So that means we were not provided with either one of those council checks or utility bills or a bank statement or maintenance receipts. So I'll go ahead and go through a few numbers that I wanted to highlight for you. Alrighty. One of the biggest numbers that we were, or sorry, not one of the biggest numbers, but one of the things we were unable to substantiate is in September 2018, the petitioner reported an expense of $3,423 related to insurance costs. But based on what was provided to us, we were unable to identify that expense on the expense report. So what it says is that it's for property taxes, or I'm sorry, insurance, not property taxes. But based on the expense report that was provided to us, we see that it was actually a reimbursement to the landlord or Wei Cheng, and the account numbers don't match anything for the insurance. So what was provided to us by the expense report and what's been provided to us by the petitioner are not matching, thus the inability to substantiate it. So as I highlighted in my report, the documentation does not demonstrate a relationship to what has been reported. In November 2018, the petitioner reported a claim of $390 for a security deposit. DCBA received no documentation provided to that expense. In December 2018, DCBA was unable to substantiate a pest control claim in the amount of $55, and again, no documentation was provided to our department related to this. In January 2019, DCBA was unable to substantiate the petitioner's payroll and taxes claim, which was in the amount of $75.24, and again, for the same reason, we had no documentation. In March 2019, DCBA was unable to substantiate the petitioner's property tax claim in the amount of $3,990.39, as no documentation was provided related to this expense. So based on the totals that were provided to us, that was reported, and what we were actually able to substantiate, when we compared the income and the expenses, we determined that the net operating income for the petitioner was $24,301.20. And again, that was for the entire time frame of September 2018 through April 2019. Now, in figure 1, which is here, we calculated the petitioner's net operating income with the inclusion of the mortgage. Again, as you know, mortgage is not an eligible expense, but we wanted to go ahead and look at that as a result of this unique circumstance. After calculating the mortgage, we calculated a total of $62,205.38 in mortgage costs for the time frame of September 2018 through April 2019. Comparing that to the net operating income, we are seeing that adding that expense to the expenses that the petitioner already had, we were able to calculate that the net operating income then went to negative $37,904.18. I'm going to go ahead and move forward to the next case, as I'll revisit this at the end. Alrighty, so these are the key issues related to RSQ 1902024. So again, the petitioner closed on the property in August 2018, which was again a month prior to the implementation of the interim rent stabilization ordinance. In this instance, the petitioner is requesting a minimum of $4,195 to $4,450, which would be split monthly between the units as an increase. This range, and I should have mentioned it in my previous key issues, this range was provided to the petitioner from one of the companies he was working with to try to get the mortgage refinanced. So in this instance, 3 of the 15 units will become vacant by July 31st, 2019. And again, that provides the landlord the ability to set rent for the unit without approval from the county per the ordinance. And again, the petitioner has already issued 3% rent increases where applicable. So I'll go through the findings for this property, which is 1157 Obert. Again, the petitioner reported the following operating expenses: mortgage, property tax, property insurance, maintenance and repairs, payroll and salaries, pest control, trash, gas, water, and electricity. In this instance, the income that was reported to DCBA was in the amount of $84,570.90. And based on the rent rolls that were provided to our department, we calculated an income of $81,870.91. So it came in a little bit lower than what was reported. The petitioner, in the months of September, October, and November, reported a rental income of $11,015 flat. But we actually determined that it was $10,115 in rental income. Again, it's the same evidence that was provided in the previous case, which includes council checks, utility bills, bank statements, maintenance receipts, and invoices. And again, we used the property management company's expense report to identify those expenses, and again, cross-reference those numbers against the evidence that was provided to us that I just listed. That also allowed us to look at how expenses have been split over time. So, for example, if there was an insurance payment that we were able to substantiate that was across several months, we were able to see that based on the evidence that was provided. So again, I'll go through the numbers that are here. I've already addressed the total income for the property, and now I'll go through the expenses and just where they differentiate based on what was reported to our department. Again, DCBA was in September 2018. DCBA was unable to substantiate the petitioner's reimbursement check for insurance in the amount of $3,423. Again, the documentation provided for the claim did not demonstrate a relationship to what had been reported. Additionally, the petitioner reported a mortgage payment of $5,482.02, but the bank statement that we cross-referenced it against for the same month reported a mortgage expense of $1,983.26. In October 2018, the petitioner reported an expense of $150 for petty cash, but DCBA was unable to determine what that was used for, and also it did not mean that an expense had been incurred. In November 2018, DCBA was unable to substantiate the petitioner's property tax claim in the amount of $2,710.78, and again, no documentation was provided related to that expense. In December 2018, DCBA was unable to substantiate the petitioner's landscaping claim in the amount of $320. We received no documentation related to that expense. There was also, the petitioner also reported $50 of a bonus provided to an employee, but we were unable to substantiate it because we had no documentation for that. Last, the petitioner's claim of an expense of $9,885 for apartment interiors was unable to be substantiated based on the documentation that was provided to us. It did not relate to the specific work that was that the petitioner claimed was performed at the on the unit, but instead what was provided to us was a canceled check and a check request, but there was no memo or anything letting us know that what work was actually performed on the unit. So we were unable to substantiate that. In March 2019, again, a property tax claim was given to us in the amount of $2,700.66, and no documentation was provided related to that expense, so we were unable to substantiate it. Last, in April 2019, again, a property tax claim in the amount of $7,110.78 was provided to DCBA by the petitioner, but we were unable to substantiate that because no documentation was provided. And lastly, DCBA was unable to substantiate the claim of $21.58 towards employee training, and again, no documentation was provided to us related to the expense. So based on the totals of what have been reported in income as well as the expenses that we were able to substantiate, for this particular property, the landlord has a net operating income in the amount of $45,997.14. So just as we did in the last case, we went ahead and calculated those numbers with the inclusion of the mortgage, because again, the landlord does not have a base year that we're looking at, and so we had to calculate this in a unique way. After calculating the mortgage expense from the petitioner, we came up with a net operating income with the inclusion of mortgage of $5,205.26, and that is not negative, although it's in red up there. So at this point, we see that for this particular unit, the petitioner is still receiving a return on the property, even with the implementation of the interim rent stabilization ordinance. So as we previously mentioned, we included the mortgage as a result of the petitioner not having a base year for us to calculate the net operating income against. However, DCBA is still wanting to move forward with the calculation of the net operating income without mortgage included in that amount. One thing that I wanted to point out is that DCBA understands that it is within the hearing officer's discretion to make an alternative determination as it relates to the petition. However, DCBA at this time is recommending denial of the following interim rent stabilization ordinance positions for relief from moratorium, which are case number RSQ 19-01475 and RSQ 1902024. Thank you.
Thank you. I had presented staff with a memo with some questions, and you have addressed some of them. First, let me go to case 1475. There is an explanation in the staff report about the differences between what the petitioner reported and what DCBA substantiated, but I did not see an explanation for April 2019. Why there is the difference in those numbers. Do you have that information?
We're talking about 2C, right? On the memo.
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. So the petitioner reported about $22,000 in expenses, and that included a reimbursement for property tax, saying that he made a payment towards his property tax, a reimbursement to himself. We invalidated that on the expense report, against the expense report, because it listed the expense for that, not for that property tax, but for that amount of $6,500 with the same check as an owner distribution in excess cash flow. The other thing is we didn't want to double count the payment that came in. So again, we were unable to substantiate it. One, because of the documentation provided did not relate to what was on the expense report.
All right. I had wondered if the claim for the insurance for the 11506 property and the 11517 property were actually the same expense, or if it's one bill for two properties, or they're actually two separate bills. Were you able to determine that? Because it's just interesting to me that you have a 10-unit complex and a 15-unit complex, and it's the exact same amount for insurance.
Not at this time. We were not able to determine it.
Right. As far as including the mortgage expenses in the figures, I am aware that the standard in the business is not to include mortgage expenses when determining what the net operating income or what the return on the investment is. So placing it in here, I think, made it a little more confusing to me. I was wondering why it was in, but I also wonder, since the ordinance was effective September 11th, but nobody knew about that until December, why we wouldn't just calculate the 4 months of 2018 that were provided information on and compare that to the 4 months of 2019 and use what was provided as the base year, because in effect, the landlord operated without these rent increase, not under the ordinance, because while it was effective, while it was retroactive December 11th, it wasn't effective until December 20th. Okay. So I'm wondering why we didn't just say what they gave us for 2018, we'll call that the base year, and we'll call 2019, those 4 months, the petition year.
Okay, I'm actually going to call Randy up here who can further explain that.
Thank you, and I'll just ask that you state your name completely for the record.
My name is Randall Fulmer. And
Please go ahead, Mr. Fulmer.
So, as I understand your question, which is why we were not using the months in 2018 as the base year, the reason is, although the ordinance was not fully in effect until December, there still was a moratorium on rent increases, capped at 3% going to September 11th. Therefore, it's impossible for DCBA to determine that the implementation of the ordinance is what's impacting the landlord's ability to receive a fair return. Because even as the building was purchased in August, they still would not be able to have increased the rent above 3% starting September. So in effect, it was active in that regard.
Very good. Thank you very much. That's the explanation I needed.
If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you,
I'll
Mr.
cede it to Ms. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Fulmer. And so therefore, Ms. Lewis, the adjusted net operating income was not calculated because as far as DCBA is concerned, while there's a net operating income, it's not possible to adjust it for inflation because there are no base year figures.
Correct.
And that goes back to the moratorium being in effect per board motion on September 11th.
Correct.
All right, thank you. And let me see if I had a different question for 2024. No, I did have a question about the claim for the $9,885, but you have addressed that. All right, with that then I'm opening the public hearing for items 2 and 3, cases RSQ 19-01475 and RSQ 19-02024. First, I'm going to call the petitioner, Elsie Rodriguez and Wei Chao Chang. Please come forward. Thank you. Please take a seat. You'll have a total of 10 minutes for your presentation. Both of you can speak, one of you can speak. That's completely up to you. All I ask is that you state your name for the record before you begin.
Hi, excuse me. My name is Wei Chao Chang. I'm the landlord. I'm the owner of both properties. So before I begin, I just would like to point out a few things. 11506 is a 14-unit building, not a 10-unit building. And 11517 is a 10-unit building, not a 15-unit building. And I also like to quickly address some of the questions that were raised. The insurance cost, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, I apologize. The insurance cost was something that I paid for out of pocket at the close of escrow. The insurance is required, and I believe at the time that I filed the petition, I just cut the bill in half, just because it was the easiest. I realized retrospectively that, it's probably better to do a percentage, but that's what I did at the time, and I did bring copies of the charge, the credit card charge, as well as the insurance policy itself to substantiate those costs. And some of the property tax that could not be substantiated, just for me was somewhat confusing because I had submitted the paperwork. Taxes I have to pay for. I cannot get away with not paying for them. So I have the bills along with the actual payment receipts, and I have some of the credit card bills demonstrating those charges. And I think what happened in this instance is that while the management company took care of a lot of expenses, a majority of the expenses, I should say, when we are short on funds, I have to pay for those out of pocket. And because I knew all these expenses were coming up, for example, the $6,500, at some point I instructed the accountant at the management company, any extra cash we have, please just set it aside because we have to use that for taxes. And when the tax bill came up, I have the exact amount in here, but let's say the exact amount was $10,000. Obviously, $6,500 is not $10,000. I told the accountant, please send me a check for that $6,500, and I will put $3,500 of my own money into it. So those are, again, property taxes are all expenses that I can substantiate. I have the documentation for them. And, things that are inevitable in life are death and taxes. I cannot get away with not paying my property taxes. So I just wanted to state that for the record. So did you want me to just focus on 11506 or just kind of do both of them? Since the backstory is very similar.
Mr. Chang, don't feel like you need to concentrate on one or the other.
Okay.
Just make the presentation however it's easiest for you.
Okay. And I do apologize if I have to cough on occasion or take a drink of water.
That's completely fine.
Thank you. So, we purchased this property in August 20, 2018. And the ordinance went into effect, it's actually less than a month. It's 21 days after we acquired this property. We, of course, did not find out about it and about the rent freeze and rent rollback until end of November, beginning of December. I think, since that time, all we have done is lost money. The owner of this property, of both of these properties, was the same person. She had kept the rents fairly low for 20, 30 years as she owned them. Subsequently, the properties are not in good shape. They require maintenance, but the income was low. But the the rents were low. We thought we could come in, maintain the building, do repairs, gradually increase rents, and just bring them to standard. The seller financed the purchase, meaning she held a 2-year note, which I submitted as part of my package. The total purchase price for both properties was approximately $5.5 million, of which we put down approximately $1.5 million. Again, I have the actual numbers. I just, so we have 2 years to refinance this loan. Either we could completely pay it off, we could refinance it with a bank, or win the lottery and pay it off. I don't know. But the mortgage on 11506 is $2.5 million, 2.504. The mortgage on the second unit is approximately 1.65. So between the two of them, it's approximately 4 to 4.1 million in total mortgage. Because of the very low rents, I had gone to a bank, several banks, asking how much mortgage could I qualify for. I was told approximately $900,000 for 11517 against a current outstanding loan of $1.5 million. And for the second unit, where there's an outstanding loan of $2.5 million, I can qualify for approximately $1.9 million. So just roughly, I'm about $1.2 million short. And that's where the $4,000 increase approximately for each unit comes from. To achieve those loan dollars, that's how much I would have to raise the rents by at each unit. I realize DCBA has their position not to consider mortgage, but it is something that we pay every single month. One discrepancy for 11517 of the mortgage interest for August of 2018, that's where the $1,600 is. It's for the 10 days that we owned it. So for September, there was another payment. So I did want to point that out while we are speaking about the mortgage. So just on our end, my LC Rodriguez is with Mashco Property Management. They manage approximately 5,000 units, apartment units in Southern California. They're very experienced. I myself am not a big corporate landlord that is out there to kick everybody out and double, triple rents. I've worked hard all my life. I am taking time off of work right now to be here. I have a stack of paperwork right here that took me several hours, which I do well into midnight and on weekends, time off from work. What I'm trying to do here is to try to save my investment, money that I've worked very hard for. Because if I don't get some rental increases, if I cannot refinance my mortgages, the issue here is there's a few potential outcomes. The most obvious, the previous owner could foreclose on me. I could lose the property outright if I cannot refinance these loans. If something like that were to occur, needless to say, my credit would be ruined. I probably will not qualify, for a small credit card or something after that. The very interesting thing here is that I've, thought, what if I just sold this property at a loss? I just, whatever amount I paid for it, I'll just, I just want to break even. I don't make any money off of it. When I ran that scenario through a real estate agent, the gist is I will still end up losing money because of commissions, et cetera. But because of the mechanisms, that 1031 exchange mechanism that I used to acquire this property, I would still be liable for $100,000 in taxes, even though I lost money. So with that in mind, I approached my accountant and I asked them, what if I just went to the previous owner and I said, you know what, here are the keys. Just take it back. Don't foreclose on me, take it back. You can have it. So I asked my accountant what would happen in that scenario. My accountant did the same calculations and told me you would owe the IRS $100,000 because of the 1031 mechanism. So, so my situation is I am stuck either way for this property. I'm not making any money off of it. I realize DCBA doesn't consider mortgage in their calculation, but it's as if I opened up a shop on, August 20th, and on September 11th they told me, you know what, your rent doesn't count as a business expense, which, unfortunately that's now how a business operates. For me, a mortgage is something that I have to pay somebody to be able to own this property. And, I've been losing money on this property, both of these properties. I've dipped into my life savings. I've dipped into my home equity line of credit to help offset some of these costs. So I'm here, I realize, and as DCBA said, my situation is very unique. So I am also here looking for some assistance and possibly some guidance as to what I can do here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Ms. Rodriguez, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just would like to add that, we've tried to work with some of the residents that are actually here. Just try to go into some of the deferred maintenance that they have in their apartments as well. Again, it's a money issue. We are trying to cover a lot of the maintenance payroll. So it is making it a bit difficult to just kind of get everything around and getting some of the work done. But we are doing our best, and we do understand there might be issues they might have in their apartment homes, because some of these residents have been there for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. So some of them are living under very, poor conditions, and we do acknowledge that. But again, we do need the funds to operate as well. So it is a very, very awkward situation for the owner as well as the management company, because I'm the one that pretty much has to speak with them and put my face in front of their doors and say, we're going to do our best to get what we need to get to you. So it's just becoming a very uncomfortable situation for, I think, all of them. So we're trying our best. That's pretty much all I want to say.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez, and thank you, Mr. Chang. If I could ask you to please take your seats, I'm going to call the the next speakers. Thank you. I'm going to start with the people who've asked to speak on item 2. So I'm going to call the first 2 speakers, and if I could just have you come down and take a seat. Terry Fowler and Joseph Velasco. No, you've decided not to speak, and that's fine. Joseph Velasco and Michael Skaggs, come on down. You're the next speakers. And who are you? Are you Mr. Harry Blake? Come on down, that's fine. But if 2 of you would like to speak, I'd like to get you down here. So Mr. Blake is coming, and either Joseph Velasco or Michael Skaggs should come down.
How much time do we have?
You will have 3 minutes each. So we have Mr. Harry Blake, and sir, are you Mr. Velasco?
No, Michael Scott.
You're Mr. Skaggs, all right, thank you. Gentlemen, it doesn't matter who begins speaking first. I just ask that you state your name for the record before you begin.
Harry Blake. I just want to work my way back.
Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Harry Blake.
Thank you.
So I just want to work my way backwards. So, actually, I'll open this way. We talked a lot about operating cost and having a need for income to pay for repairs. I totally understand. I'm overall smart people. We all understand those challenges. What I don't understand is how we have a management company who's on payroll by Mr. Chang. It's got to be a lot of money. And we haven't done everything that I could see, everything that was presented today, to try to solve the income issue in other ways. In my unit, there's a plumbing issue. I haven't had hot water at my kitchen sink or my bathroom sink since I moved in. Bathtub, hit or miss. This is all well documented in the scope of probably another hearing. I understand I'm running out of time. 3 minutes is, I'm certain, not adequate for what I have to say. So if we're trying to really solve the solution of, hey, I need to get money to upkeep the property, if we take what Mr. Chang said at his word, that, hey, I need help, a big expense to likely what he's dealing with is going to be a property management company, I would imagine. My issue hasn't been addressed, I should say my issue hasn't been resolved in 70 days, 10 weekends. I am now leaving on Sunday because my dishes can't get washed properly. I don't know what kind of shower I'm going to take. I can't invite my mother to my home to actually have quiet enjoyment, those types of things. Elsie made a good point during her portion about, hey, we're doing our best. We're the people who are going to put our faces in front of these clients and we're going to have a hard time. This is the first time I've ever laid eyes on Miss Rodriguez. Brand new tenant. Never come to my door, never met her, nothing. So I'm not using my time to disparage anybody. I'm using this time to say, I run an operation of 3 trucks, 25 guys across two cities, SF and LA. I understand what operating cost is. I understand what it takes to run a thing. You have a tenant who is a good tenant. I've been able to provide records. My last 2 or 3 apartments, never missed a payment, always been on time. Might have some stuff way back 10 years in my record in college of a credit card and an eviction. Dad got sick, had to go home, those types of things. If we're talking about going above and beyond, I haven't had a person come to my apartment on a weekend. I've had to beg for correspondence from the company. So we talk about doing our best. And hey, I thought we could take on the property to Mr. Chang's and keep it to some sort of upkeep and maybe get it to a nominal point. The effort doesn't match what is being described here today because he's going to now lose a tenant who is happy to pay. I'm in one of the renovated units at $13.95 a month. Happy to pay. I work five minutes from my job. I know I'm out of time. I would have loved to have stayed here for 12 months, 24 months to work 5 minutes from my job where I'm getting paid well. Now he's going to lose out on that and my issue's not fixed.
Thank you, Mr.
So there was a
Blake.
way to retain that money and he's allowing it to walk out of the door.
Thank you, Mr. Blake.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Skaggs.
Can I address the petitioner?
No, sir.
Okay.
Let's keep it as
Okay.
civil as we can.
No. I'm just saying because I mean,
Mr. Skaggs, hold on. First of all, I'm going to need for you to again state your name for the record, and if you have something to say to the petitioner, say it to me.
Okay, Michael Skaggs.
Thank you, sir.
So they mentioned that rent is gradually increased. Back in February, I received a rent increase of $420, which was well beyond the 3%. This management company that he's paying seems like they're providing smoke and mirrors with the numbers. And I mean, it's just a common thing that we have with us. You know, I explained, my situation with them and the rent increase, the stabilization ordinance. And they kept telling me that we're in the city of Whittier, which we're not. I've lived in that area for 25 years. I know what the unincorporated area is. We're a low-income area. I mean, but to be honest with you, he was trying to increase my rent to $14.95. I would have no problem paying $14.95 if I had a unit that was comparable to some of the other units that he has renovated or remodeled, however you want to say it. But I mean, he's putting, I would say, probably 10 to 15,000 into each unit to get renovated, and I think there's probably 5 or 6 units that have been renovated already. But he wants me to pay a premium price for, I hate to say this, but garbage. It's just that simple. I mean, you know, the management company is a lot of money that he's paying, and I don't feel like they're providing adequate support to him. I mean, they bring a maintenance guy on 1 day a week, like maybe 4 hours a week. The building's run down because, to be honest, if he were to release the property back to the original owner, I think all the tenants would be really happy at this time. And I'm speaking from the heart on that one, because the previous tenant took care of the building, provided a on-site manager that took care of the building, who did all the landscaping, and he had that opportunity to keep that person, but they didn't want to hear it. The management company didn't want to hear it. So, I mean, I think he's doing it to himself. So, and I mean, I'm an underwriter, and I understand you need to have cost analysis to go through with purchasing an investment property. And investment properties are either hit or miss, you know, and I think he missed on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Skaggs. I do have a question for you. You mentioned that in February, a rent increase was proposed, or was it actually implemented?
It was proposed, and I tried to fight it, but nobody would listen.
So you are paying, starting in February, you are paying $1,495? No. Okay, what are you paying now?
$1,107.
And what were you paying in January?
$1,075.
I'm sorry, $1,075?
Yeah.
That was dropped down to the 3%. So.
Well, yeah. After I had to fight for it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Skaggs. Right. Thank you, Mr. Blake, very much.
Thank you.
Our next speakers, Mr. Velasco, did you want to come down? No? All right. Then I'm going to start calling the speakers for item 3. Start with Ms. Alba Marquez, and then Amy Mike. Please go ahead, just state your name for the record, and you can begin.
My name is Alba Marquez, and I live at 11517 South Overt Avenue, apartment 3. And the reason why I'm here is because there's so many issues with the building. And like the other gentleman said, it's not being taken care of. I have pictures here. In my apartment, there has been mold. I have reports from the city that they found mold. And also there's a torn carpet that has been there for so long. And I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for them to take care of that. I have a daughter with a disability which got sick, because of the mold thing. And I have the reports here from the doctor. I got sick, and we're still dealing with these issues and taking medication. It shows on the notes from the doctor that I've submitted on what medications were prescribed, and we're still dealing with this issue. And it seems like, it's getting along, it keeps on going. In December of 2018, I received a 60-day notice, which I submitted to you, that my rent was raised, and it was raised $275 all along. And then until April 1st, I received a 30-day notice that my rent was decreased. However, in here it shows as if I was paying $875, and then it was decreased, and it just shows, that seems like that's what I was paying. And no, since December until March, I was paying $1,150. And I hear here, I have heard here that the ordinance went into effect in December, and that's when I got my rent increase. So I don't understand what's going on. I have here the copies of my checks because we're not even getting receipts. And when I have asked for receipts, they say they won't give receipts. So I have to keep copies of all my checks because they don't even give receipts. And also, like the gentleman said, everything is just, the pictures are here, and you can see the mold. You can see, how the building is. My shoes, I had to throw a lot of shoes away. My clothes, it shows you how they got mold. My furniture, a lot of stuff I had to get rid of because of the mold. And when I asked for them to do a thorough inspection, a formal inspection of the apartment, they didn't. They only sent their maintenance guys to clean the walls, but no formal inspection has been done to see if there is still mold on the walls or wherever it is or underneath the carpet. I'm still waiting. And I have a daughter with a disability that I am concerned about. And, there is also, I mentioned to them, there's a screen door that is broken. It doesn't close, and it's all, rusty. And I still haven't heard a reply at all. When we called, they don't, the manager doesn't answer. And then, we have to trace and keep on bugging for them to be able to listen, and I don't understand.
Thank you, Ms. Marquez. Before we move on, I just wanted to say that, as was clarified a little bit ago, the rent moratorium went into effect on September 11th. And so even though the ordinance didn't pass until December, in September, on September 11th, the Board of Supervisors says, okay, moratorium on rent increases until we get an ordinance passed. So there should not have been any rent increases over the 3% during that September period through December. It should not have been more. But I'm going to talk to staff about that in a little bit. So thank you, Ms. Marquez. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Excuse me. I'm losing my voice. I'm nervous. My name's Amy Mike, and I live at 11517 Obert Avenue in apartment 4. And I've been living there for 20 years. My 20-year-old was a baby when we went in there. Well, they offered us a deal to move, $1,000. They offered that to several of the tenants. I didn't take the deal because my husband got laid off his job in April. So we're trying to get back on our feet. I have nowhere to go. I don't want to be homeless. I have a 10-year-old daughter. And so I told her I wasn't going to take the deal. So, okay. And she said, well, you could stay. She told my husband and I in our living room, that if you stay, we will not do any renovations to your apartment. Nothing's been done in my apartment for 20 years. The carpet is not even a carpet. I have a rug over it right now. There's a part you could trip over going into the kitchen. I have a little mat over it. The bathroom floor is stained, like it's awful. No paint job either, so nothing's been done. The cabinets in the kitchen are falling apart, and the wood underneath the carpet is going down. You step, it goes down. You can feel like a draft coming from there as well. I'm afraid that somebody's going to fall through, and so nothing's being done in there. Also, they also raised my rent in December to $1,158. Okay, and then we paid it, and then in April they give us a 30-day notice saying the rent's going down. So they changed it to $824. That's when I said, okay. So now they're trying to say in June, we never lowered your rent to $824. You owe us $300 something. The only proof I have is I do have a cashier's check copy of $800 and this is plus a late charge, $49 that I paid in May. And nothing was ever questioned in May. I paid it, cashier's check, they cashed it. And then June comes, oh no, you owe 1,158. We never lowered it. And I was like, I don't have that notice. My husband and I are trying to find it right now. But like I said, I do have the copy of the cashier check I paid in May. Why would I pay $800 and something in May? Where did I get $824 from? I didn't just pick it up from the air. I didn't. So I just that's disappointing. They're trying to get another additional $300 and something for June, which I have not paid it yet because I wanted to come to this hearing. And so she's right. It is about a money issue for everybody. Like I said, I've been living here for 20 years, 20 years of my life. And I just want to, if they want me to pay the higher rent, that's fine. But like the other gentleman said, nothing's being done, though. I hate to use the phrase, I live in crap. It's very unsafe. Very unsafe. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Mike. Thank you. All right, and the last speaker, Nicholas de Guzman. Good morning, sir.
My name is Nicholas de Guzman. I'm at 11517 Obert Avenue, apartment number 2. I've been there for going on 9 to 10 years now. The owners before, although they didn't do a complete renovation of different units, they did take care of us in different ways, as they did have an on-site manager who did do odds and ends things, and if there was something that was abhorrently needed, they would hire people very quickly. In December of 2018, we reported to the representative that we have for the owner of a mold problem that we had in our bedroom. In our bedroom, the wall shares an outdoor planter that the soil goes up about 3 feet. Inside our bedroom, that entire wall and the wall that shared that with our closet was completely covered in mold. Floor to ceiling, anything that was against the wall, behind it, between the wall and whatever furniture, clothes, shoes, anything we had mold on it, completely covered. Once that was reported, eventually they did send a mold inspector, and at that time he told them that this needs to be taken care of immediately, and he was ready to do the work that week, and he iterated that the walls needed to be cleaned, torn down, and replaced to get rid of the mold. In January of 2019, we stayed in a hotel room for about a week between the dates of January 9th and 16th for that work to be done. And in that time, we had to move all of our stuff from the walls and put it where we could. We have no outside storage, so we had to throw it on our bed. So before we went to the hotel, we were sleeping in our living room on the floor, and along with all of our stuff, we were confined to about a 6 by 10 foot area for us to live and sleep in. When we got back from the hotel, the wall wasn't replaced. About 1/4 of the wall was replaced. There was no work done to the outside of the unit, and we were even told that there had to be a moisture leak from the planter into our unit. From that time, it took from December 26th, when we reported it, till March 27th for it to be resolved and for us to actually move back into our apartment. And between the dates of January 16th till about early March, I would say, we were sleeping on the floor in our living room, not being able to use our bedroom. And at that time in December is when there was a rent increase of $300 that shouldn't have ever been done because of the ordinance. And in that time, there was no sense of urgency that was being dealt with, and I would have to email the property management sometimes 2 or 3 days in a row just to get a response as to what was happening, what was going to be done, what was the process. And all this time we were sleeping on our floor. So that's why I believe that there's nothing being done.
Thank you, Mr. de Guzman.
Thank you.
There was Mindy Watterson who said she didn't want to speak. Correct? Ms. Watterson, you've decided not to speak, correct? All right, Mindy Watterson, would you like to come forward? Thank you. Got to keep an eye on me. I apologize for that. Thank you.
So my name is Mindy Watterson. I live at 11506 over in number 8. Pretty much same issues as everybody else. Maintenance problems don't get fixed. You want to raise our rent, then we need stuff fixed or the whole place redone. I mean, I've got a bathtub that's got rust and scratches and mold stains in it that we just scrubbed it yesterday for 2 hours and it doesn't even look like it put a dent in it. I had plumbing problems with where the toilet or the bathtub would not drain. They got a plumber to come out. They had to cut a hole in the wall next to the bathtub in order to get it to start flowing again. They did that, put some red masking tape on it and left it. We got the maintenance guy did come up and he kind of band-aided it with some stuff. I mean, it's not done yet. He said he was going to come back, finish the hole, and then paint it. Still hasn't been done yet. I texted the maintenance guy probably about a month ago now and told him it looks like there's still a leak behind the wall because I feel moisture on it and they're starting to get little black dots. And I don't know if it's mold. I can't say because... but he said, okay, I'll be there tomorrow morning. I haven't even seen him. Supposed to be there every Wednesday. I haven't even seen him the last few Wednesdays. So, I mean, since we've lost having a manager on site, things just don't get done. And I'm sorry, the management company says that they're there for us, but where? I mean, all I ever see of the management company is notices that they put on our door or if they're doing walk-through inspections. So it's hard to be in agreement with wanting to pay more rent when we're basically living in a dump. So that's pretty much it.
Ms. Watterson, did you have a rent increase in December?
It was pretty much the same as everybody else. They gave us the rent increase, and then they retracted it and did the 3% effective April, I believe it was.
And was the overage that you'd paid refunded to you?
I didn't pay over because I had talked to the management company saying, okay, because I had heard that, it wasn't going to go into effect because of the whole issue of the rent control. And so she said, for now, just pay what you normally would pay. So I never paid the bigger increase. I just paid when they did the 3%.
All right, thank you very much. All right, at this time, I'm going to ask the petitioners to come back down for rebuttal. You have up to five minutes for your rebuttal period.
Maintenance, and we still do. However, we have a lot of those rate increases that they mentioned as well. They were all given a credit back because we did realize by going with our legal counsel that those were done in an error. So we did take them back. Credits were issued to all residents. Yeah, we did admit our mistakes and we went back. As far as the deferred maintenance, I hear them. I have service requests. We are getting to each and every one of them as much, we're trying to get ourselves out there as fast as we can. We do have a maintenance tech who's been out, and that's why they haven't seen him. He's been out sick. Really don't have any idea what his problem is, but we do have a medical note. So he hasn't been, but we do have another maintenance tech that is addressing other apartments because we do have 14 units and 10 units, and they each need maintenance. So some of the services that come to us, we do try to take care of them as fast as we can, but they go beyond carpet replacement. They go into tubs. Sometimes we have to replace toilets. We're talking about vertical blinds that have been in their homes for 15 years. We're talking about a lot of wear and tear we obviously need ownership approval, but he's also having to deal with the financial part of it. So it's a mix of everything. I did hear Harry. We are very unfortunate that we're losing Harry. He's one of our new residents, but we do understand that he has encountered a few issues. The properties it was previously stated, properties are from 1960, 1961. We do have some plumbing issues that we do deal with, I would say every other day. And I understand that this is not what he signed up for. And we're very sorry that he's leaving. But at the same time, I did express to him that the properties are old, and I cannot guarantee for him to have water 24/7, even though that's our goal. So that's all I want to say. We are doing what we can.
Do you have anything to add, Mr. Chang?
Excuse me. Yes, I do. So regarding the rental increases, everybody who paid an increase over 3% was given a credit, I believe in the month of March. And even though I read by that time we could spread that out over 6 months, I just told the management company just refund the difference to everybody, give them a credit at the same time. Some of the tenants again did not want to pay anything over 3%. So even though some people said they received increases of $200, $300, $400, none of them, the ones that did pay over 3% were issued a refund promptly. And I also like to point out, several tenants have expressed there are a lot of maintenance issues. For example, the mold issue was a $15,000 fix. Just to get the mold inspector out there for him to remedy the mold situation was $4,800. The planter, et cetera, fixing the lines underneath, that was another $10,000, and those were all submitted to DCBA to verify. And as multiple tenants have expressed, they've been there 15, 20 years. There's a lot of issues. I bought that issue, and where I'm doing my best to try to remedy some of the situation. But the flip side is I'm not made out of money either. As it is, I've already lost, I would estimate close to $100,000 on this investment, with the potential of losing everything. And I've heard a comment that, a tenant is willing to pay the increased rent if we fix up the units. I just would like to point out, when we renovate these units have been inhabited for 10, 15, 20 years. They are very run down. Our renovations, our updates are not granite countertops, are not stainless steel appliances. They are just to get them up to date. So
Thank you, Mr. Chang.
thank you.
Thank you both. I don't believe I'll have any other questions for you other than, so you say you have some documentation that has not been provided yet to staff. Is that correct?
I did. So what had happened was when I first came in February, I submitted a lot of paperwork, but I do credit DCBA for being able to get through them because they're fairly complex. But I had to go. The reason things got pushed back 2 or 3 months was I had to keep going back, kind of reorganizing the paperwork. It is possible, for example, the property tax paperwork was submitted in February, but got shuffled and was not included in the April paperwork. And I think part of what happened, at least with the property tax paperwork, is again, I pay those out of my pocket versus running it through the management company reports that DCBA was relying on. But I did bring copies along with credit card statements, along with invoices of these bills, the property taxes getting paid, and there's, probably close to $20,000 right there. And again, even a quick check of the, Los Angeles City or County Assessor's Office will show that all of my taxes, all of my property taxes on these 2 properties are up to date. And again, I have the documentation.
And that's fine, but if I paid it, it wouldn't, if I paid your property tax bill, that doesn't count for you.
Correct.
So there's a trail of
Yes, and I have the paperwork.
Excuse me. There's a trail of paperwork that needs to be maintained before DCBA will check that off of their list of, yes, we can verify it.
And,
one last thing, go ahead.
And if I may add, every time they reached out to me asking for paperwork, hopefully they will attest, I'm very quick with my turnaround, I'm very meticulous. I try to get them what they need. Just for example, this property tax paperwork, I have the property tax bill, I have my payment of the date, and if necessary, I can get the credit card statement showing that they're paid. It's just whatever they need to validate that this payment applies to this property.
All right, I understand, thank you. So it sounds like there is some additional paperwork that could be provided. Ms. Lewis? We're not going through it right now, Mr. Chang. We're not going through it right now.
Sure.
Right, so when I go through the staff reports on the two properties, I see at least $7,900 that was not verified on 11-506, and I see possibly $26,000 that was not verified on 11-517. Just again, I'm math challenged, but something in that range for both of those properties. And my guess would be that particularly for 11-517, if you had an additional $26,000 in expenses verified, that could potentially change DCBA's recommendation for a rent increase on that property. See, there's a bit of a chicken and an egg issue here. You need to do something. You need to, the maintenance, I see from the photographs and I've seen places, yes, maintenance needs to be done, but it's not an expense until you've paid for it. So in this instance, the egg needs to come before the chicken before DCBA can say, yes, that was an expense. And because you had that expense, you are now, we think it'd be fair for you to be able to raise the rent more because you did have to spend these tens of thousands of dollars on the plumbing that's never been fixed. But you haven't paid that yet. So all the ordinance allows is for expenses, not projected expenses or we'd really like to do expenses. So it's what have you paid for? To get you to the point where you're not spinning your wheels and you're able to have money left over to do these repairs and maintenance and then show DCBA that you spent the money and you need to get more than a 3% increase. The only thing I can do at this time is give you more time to submit paperwork to DCBA to verify more of these expenses, especially the $9,885. You know, if there's, they can't go from A to E. They have to show A, B, C, D, and E to show that that $9,885 is actually paid to renovate a unit on one of these properties. So, you know, this is important stuff. It's not just important for the landlord, it's important for the tenants. So that's why both sides get the opportunity under this ordinance to bring up an issue with the rent, because it is as important. These are people's homes, and this is your livelihood. So, Ms. Lewis, I think what I'd like to do is continue this. However, can you give me an idea what else you think you need paperwork-wise, understanding that this is an iterative process, and if you give DCBA one thing, they may ask, oh, well, what about this? You may need to provide more paperwork. If you give us a basic idea right now what you think you need, understanding that more might be necessary, at least we have a starting point. When you come back in a month, or So I'm thinking July 29th for a continuance. I don't know if that's going to be doable for you, Ms. Lewis. No?
I think August 8th.
August 8th. We'd look at coming back August 8th. You know, there are a lot of pieces and a lot of parts that need to work together on this. So just a minute. Let's get an idea of what additional paperwork is necessary, and then I want to continue this to give you an opportunity to provide that. In the meantime, the tenants don't pay anymore. They can pay up to that maximum 3% more than they were paying on September 11th, but in the meantime, nothing else changes as far as the rent for the tenants goes. All right, so Ms. Lewis, what else do you think would be helpful? What else do you need?
I would say documents related to the property taxes for both properties, as well as the insurance claim. We need to see some documentation, some statements regarding that. As well as the large expense of $9,885 related to the Cara Group repairs. We need to see the actual repairs that occurred.
So I have jotted down on my notes the big ones that I saw: insurance, property taxes, the renovation, and there's some miscellaneous things, but you know, it's $540, $520, just miscellaneous what DCBA has reported, and $500 is a lot. That can add that might be the 0.5% that gets it over what you need. So even those miscellaneous expenses, get the paperwork in so the trail can be followed. And yes, Ms. Lewis is very good at picking those out. So give it to her, she'll be able to find it, but you have to give it to her. All right, Mr. Chang, you had something else to add?
So two things. One is, what are the dates available in August? Because I believe August 8th I will not be in town, first and foremost.
What is the next date after August 8th?
I believe it's August 15th.
Perhaps I could coordinate with Ms. Lewis on a date that would, because I don't have my schedule with me.
Well, the issue is if we don't continue it to a date certain, it'll need to be renoticed, because anybody who's interested in this case needs to know today when it's coming back to be heard. And it would be helpful for me to know that too.
May I address Ms. Lewis, or should I address?
What we'll do is we'll take if there's maybe someone you can make a phone call to, we will take a 5-minute break.
Anything after August 15th, how about that?
Anything after August 15th? Do you know the schedule after August 15th, Ms. Lewis?
Not right now. I have to pull it up.
So then we are going to take a 5-minute break so schedules can be coordinated and we can announce when the next hearing date will be. Because again, this is a public hearing that has been opened, so the public needs to know when we're continuing it to, so everybody knows when to come back. All right, so we're now on a 5-minute break.
Would you like us to step aside, or are we okay here? Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I don't.
Outlook?
In my email. I think the next date is.
I mean, it probably is. You just have to. Oh, there you go. How do you want to handle that?
Let's just go. Let him know he needs to return.
You think we can do it just by counseling? So you want to have you
Because
want to
he
have her
needs to
speak to
return
you
today.
after the fact. Okay.
Oh, I didn't even notice. I didn't notice. Like I did, but like not. Like, oh, why did he do that to me? Okay. Okay. Give it to me. Okay, perfect. Just like I thought. Yeah.
All right, we don't have to take the whole 5 minutes if everybody's ready. Are we set? Then we are back in session. And Ms. Lewis?
So the dates that are available after August 15th are either August 22nd or August 29th. Those are both Thursdays.
August 29th, please.
And it will be at 10 a.m.
All right. Then to provide sufficient time for the submittal and review of additional documents. Item 2, case number RSQ19-01475, and item 3, case number RSQ19-02024 are continued to 29 August 2019. And at that time, Ms. Lewis, it would be helpful to me if, let's just say for argument's sake, that staff is of the opinion at the time that the petition should be granted, that you explain in a memo, it would be helpful if you explain in a memo what would be the base year and what would be the petition year, how you would figure that. Because in the absence of all else, I'm dividing up 2018 and 2019.
Okay.
All right. Is there anything else? Ms. County Council, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right. With that, then, this item is continued to 29, these items are continued to 29 August 2019. And I want to thank everyone for coming down today. It's very important for me to hear these issues. Ms. Marquez, you'll have to speak during public comment period because these items have been continued. Right. Thank you. The items 2 and 3 have been continued. Thank you. And item 8 is the public comment period. Thank you both.
Oh,
I am finished with you. Yes, items 2 and 3 are finished for today. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ms. Marquez, if you had something else to add, you can quickly come down and add that if you'd like. What I would ask is, I do have your testimony and I do have the photos. I have that. What I would ask is that if you have something else to add, something that's come up, I completely understand coming back for another day could be extremely difficult, if not impossible, for many people to do. Send in another email because staff provides me with all the correspondence that's sent in on every item, and I read and I look at everything that I am given. And that's very important. That's one of the reasons that I asked about it. If you were not reimbursed, and you can show that you were not reimbursed, you never received receipts, this is something AASW may want to look at. You have receipts and paperwork showing that you reimbursed everybody. You should probably get that together, because if somebody didn't get reimbursed, I want to know. So whatever documentation you have to show you were not reimbursed, make sure you get that information in to DCBA staff, so that can be included in the discussions on August 29th. All right, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Was there anyone here just for the public comment period, which is technically not on these issues today, but something else? All right, seeing none, the hearing officer for Department of Consumer and Business Affairs is adjourned to 10 a.m. Monday, July 22nd, 2019. Thank you.